Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to another video on the channel. Today's video is going to preview Group D from World Cup 2022. If you've missed any of the videos already, go check out our Introduction to World Cup Fantasy League and our previews for Groups A, B and C in the description below. Any support on the channel is greatly appreciated as we keep pushing to 50 subs before Christmas. So let's get into it. So we start by looking at the group overall, and really it's France's to lose on paper. You would say as reigning champions and a ton of attacking talent that they are going to blow away some of the opposition in this group. But don't sleep on Denmark. They are in form and they have also got a good history against France as well, which we will go into when we look at them specifically. But we start with Tunisia, and they have had a pretty hectic recent few months. Actually, had some government problems. The government are trying to dissolve certain aspects of the government in Tunisia, including the federation, the football federation, which meant that they nearly got banned from the World Cup because you can, under FIFA's rules, have a nation competing in the World Cup without a national governing body for football. That's all sorted now, but it wasn't ideal preparation. They beat Mali 1-0 on aggregate in the playoffs in the African qualifying group after having a pretty straightforward previous group of qualifying. So, tactical analysis, and there's lots of attacking talent and an attack minded coach. They typically play 4-3-3, but can deploy a defensive five man midfield or wing backs if needed. And the coach Kadri knows the players. He actually spent 20 years managing in the Tunisian league before getting into international management, and that will really benefit because they've got quite a lot of players that are based in Tunisia. So, potential players to watch for your fantasy league team. We start off with Mascani. He's 4.5 million forward, pretty cheap, and he plays in Qatar. So he's actually on a sort of home soil here. He'll be used to playing in the climates. Although he's suffered with injuries recently, but he should be good to play. I think he's got the all clear now, and he's very versatile. He's even played at left back for the national team. But look for him to be the focal point of Tunisia's attacks. 4.5 million could be good value as an enabler for other players in your squad. Next up, we've got Ledouni. He's a 4.5 again midfielder this time. He's actually started the last 11 games for Tunisia, so he is pretty nailed on to play. And he's at the heart of midfield. He will be there come match day one, and he's a bit of a box to box midfielder. He also likes to sort of protect that back four. If you're looking for those tackle points, he could be your guy. Someone that I think is maybe more valuable than Laduni here is Shaqiri. He's a bit more expensive at 5 million, but he averages 3.7 interceptions per match, but also creates about 1.3 chances per match so far this season. And he also loves a long shot, so that could be something that you might want in your team if you're looking for a more all-rounded player and you've got the extra money to spare. Moving on to Australia, they had a bit of a mixed qualifying group, and they've actually got quite low expectations coming into this. Even though it's their fifth World Cup in a row, they had a bit of a long-winded journey to get there. As you can see in the qualifying group, they were a bit off the pace with teams like Saudi Arabia and Japan, so we don't really know what to expect from them coming in. They also, had those playoffs against the United Arab Emirates and Peru, so not an easy path to get here, but they made it. They are quite defensive minded though, and they have low chance creation. They do look to sort of set on the counter attack, and they will concede possession to the opposition, although they might not have a choice against teams like France and Denmark. But with that comes set pieces, and they do have an aerial threat and some really good set piece takers as well. So we start with Matt Ryan in goal, and I do think that it is worth getting in goalkeepers from teams that will concede possession. He'll definitely be kept busy, and those save points will be added up with long range shots. So these teams that are quite defensive minded, they pack the box and they reduce chances in the penalty box, which means opposition shots have to be taken from outside, which makes it more likely to be saved. Um, the next one we've got here is Ajdin Hustrich. He is their attacking player, their most creative midfielder. He can score as well, but he is the set piece specialist. So Australia, we know, are going to look to exploit set pieces to get their goals from. They're less likely to happen from open play, but he is the guy taking the free kicks. He's the guy whipping the ball into the box. So if you've got 5 million and you're looking for that sort of under the radar creative player differential, he could be your guy. How many chances they're going to get in this group, I don't know, but it might be worth a shout. Finally, we've got Martin Boyle. Now, he is a Scottish player. He plays for Hibs. He was born in Scotland, and he'd actually never been to Australia before they selected him. He was kind of sort of a surprise inclusion. They kind of stumbled across him and realised he could play for Australia. But he did get 2 goals and an assist on his debut, and he is Australia's main attacking outlet. He's 29 years old now, so he is in his prime, but he'll need to be in his prime if Australia is to stand a chance of getting out of this group. On to Denmark, and they are playing really well. That qualification group looks fantastic. 30 goals in 10 games, only conceded 3, and they actually secured qualification with games to spare. By the time they had qualified for the World Cup, they'd actually not lost a game or conceded a goal in that time span. So that loss and the goals conceded only came after they knew they were already qualified, and they've beaten France twice in the Nations League in June and September, I believe, which is pretty good going into this group. You know, if you have got sort of that confidence over the world champions, that can only be working in your favour. And they have got a nation fully behind them. You know, if you remember Euro 2020, the awful situation with Christian Eriksen, you know, they do have those sort of intangible moments where they pull together, and they've kind of been bonded through that, and that momentum and motivation and desire to do well for each other, you just can't measure that. So Denmark are pretty good underdog in this tournament, although for some people they're one of the favourites. They're pretty flexible as well when it comes to formations, and they do like to change this mid-game. But they will tend to have attacking fullbacks as a constant in that formation, and Ericsson will always be the focal point of their attack, which brings us on to potential players, and we're starting with Ericsson. He is the main man, and he is sort of linking Denmark's attacks from the defence, and he's also a threat from set pieces, both free kicks and corners, whether that's shooting from free kicks or delivering the ball into the middle. You know, Denmark have some big defenders and some big physical players that they're going to be putting into the box, and Ericsson will be looking to find them. And at 8 million, I think he could be a decent shout, especially against teams like Tunisia and Australia, where they're going to be having most of the ball and most of the possession, where he can link in. Next up, we've got Højbjerg, and you'll know him from his time at Spurs. He's a box-to-box midfielder, and he's been amongst the goals for Spurs as well recently. So if he can continue that form alongside this sort of no-nonsense combative style, he's sure to get points from everywhere, including those tackle points whilst he's shielding the defence. Finally, we've got Mailer. I think he is incredible value at 4.5 million. He's actually averaging from right back a goal every 3 games for Denmark. He's all but guaranteed to play as well. He's a real favourite of the manager, and 4.5 million is just an absolute steal, I think. So finally, we move on to France, and again, they were pretty much always guaranteed to qualify from their group, and they are reigning champions, so you don't really need to say more than that. But last time they were reigning champions in 1998, and then the following World Cup in 2002, they had a really poor tournament, and that it is really difficult to repeat as champions to win back-to-back World Cups. It usually doesn't happen, but France do have quite a young core, and mixed in with experience. We'll see how they go, but recent World Cups is not in their favour. They definitely have enough quality to get out of their group, but how far they go remains to be seen. And they do have that sort of bogey team in Denmark in their group that they've not beaten in the last 7 years. So they do play an intensive style. They've got a lot of pace and a lot of attacking threat up front, but they do have an inexperienced midfield. You know, injuries to certain midfielders have either meant their chances are not very likely to play, or they're going to be sort of defensive minded midfielders, not the usual players that they're going to be having in the World Cup. So it moves on to potential players for France. And obviously, we're going to start here with Kylian Mbappe. Huge price tag for him there, but he's really warranted for that price tag. He's an obvious threat with pace, power, and finishing, but how does he compare to other big hitters such as Kane, Messi, and Neymar? That's kind of down to your personal preference. But last season, he did become the first player to top League One scoring charts with 28 goals and assists with 17 in the same season, which is, unprecedented really. The first player in League One history to do that. He is on fantastic form and he's already continued that into this season. Next up, we've got Antoine Griezmann. If you are looking for a cheaper way into France's attack, he could be the guy. He's a real firm favourite of Didier Deschamps, and it means he's likely to start. And he is about 3 million cheaper than Mbappe and Benzema, so he could prove to be that good value option into France's attack. Finally, we've got Benjamin Pavard. He scored the goal of the tournament in the last World Cup in 2018, and he's such an attacking fullback that he could be down for similar results this time around, as well as potential clean sheet points. He is someone you would definitely want in your starting 11 again, in the game week where they're playing Tunisia, say, or even Australia, because you would fancy them to keep a clean sheet in there, and that attacking threat down the right hand side will be absolutely constant. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. We're trying to get one of these out every day before the World Cup as part of this series, and means we're halfway through this series as well. So thank you very much for listening. All the support is greatly appreciated, and I will see you in the next one.